Good morning, and if you can hear me, please give me a thumbs up. Make sure you can hear my voice. Can everybody hear me? Looks like my mic is on, so making sure you guys can hear me. If you can, just give me a thumbs up. Here's somebody just popped something up there. I better mute my computer. So, Jenny Brown, let me ask you a question. Were you at Sam's Club on Thursday? Good morning, Shireen. How are you this morning? Oh, I could have sworn I saw you at Sam's Club on Thursday. I was like, that looks like Jenny Brown, but I guess it wasn't. Well, you're going to drive right by my house if you're going there today. Hello, Soulful Road. Hello from northern Spain. Spain, that sounds lovely. How many of you out there have snow? We got it overnight again. So, in fact, as soon as I'm done this today, I'm going to go put on a warm coat and plow my driveway. Jenny, you're really smart. Of course, being originally from Delaware, which can't handle snow, and coming to Ohio, I was amazed at how they handle snow around here. In Delaware, if the grass got slightly white, schools were closed. And here, the first winter I was here, I was driving my son to school through snows that would have closed us for a month in Delaware. Two minutes. Oh, nice. I love London. I had a great time in London. The one in England and the one in Ontario as well. I spoke at the Unity Church in Ontario, London, Ontario, a couple of times, actually. That was a long time ago, though. New York City. Is that where they make that salsa? Get a rope. I don't know if I'm showing my age by quoting that commercial or not. 1 minute to go. 1 minute to go. I'm going to take a sip of my hot tea and honey. Well, Happy New Year to you, Alex Media. I am slightly still nursing my laryngitis. It's a little bit, kind of the force the voice a little bit, but it's okay. I have my microphone turned up, and hopefully that'll make up for a whole bunch of stuff. In 2019-18, another New Yorker. Good morning, Marianne. How are you this morning? 5, 4. Welcome to the Live Loving live stream with John Davis. Well, hello everybody. What'd you think of the new intro? I just did that yesterday. I hope you like that. I'm here in Ohio. It's snowy. It's cold. Still nursing a little bit of laryngitis. I have hot tea, honey and lemon right here, and I have the coolest little gadget that keeps my hot tea and honey hot the whole time I'm sitting here. So that's good. I'm really excited to be back because I kind of missed you guys and missed being here and talking to you on Sundays. But I really needed the chance to get my voice to come back. And so before we get into that, let's get the smile time stuff out of the way. Someone sent me in a joke that I'm going to share with you guys right now, and I'm going to adapt it a little bit. I'm going to change it up just slightly because I'm an actor and I want to do that. So it was an early Wednesday afternoon, and the Pope was in his office at the Vatican, and he was in there working on the yearly budget when a knock came at the door. His assistant comes in and says, Your Holy Eminence, we have a businessman outside who'd like to speak with you. He says, well, lead him in, my son. And in the door walks a short, portly gentleman in a white suit, a funny-looking mustache, and a little tuft of a white beard. And in a southern drawl, he says, Your Eminence, I'm Colonel Sanders, and I'd like to talk to you about a business proposition. And the Pope says, what would you like to say? I said, well, I'd like to give the Catholic Church $5 billion. And he says, wow, that's a wonderful donation, my son. What's that? I said it's a business proposition. He says, this isn't just a donation. I need something in return. He said, well, what would you like, my son? And he says, well, you know, the Lord's Prayer, I need you to change the wording. Instead of give us this day our daily bread, I need you to say, give us this day our daily chicken. You do that, and I'll give you $5 billion. He says, well, I'm not sure we can do that. I would need to talk to the College of Cardinals, so why don't we take a break? I'll go talk to them, and we'll figure out if there's something we can do. Well, all right, you get back to me, Your Eminence, and Colonel Sanders leaves. Pope packs up all his stuff, gets up, goes down to the conclave to meet with the College of Cardinals. He walks in, very ceremoniously locks the door behind him. He says, I have good news and I have bad news. Good news is we're about to make $5 billion. Bad news is we're about to lose the Wonder Bread account. Somebody sent this to me, and it made me laugh out loud, so I thought I better share it with the people on on the live stream. This morning, before we get into questions, and I know Doug, you've had a question on here. If you're here, Doug, you had a question on there since 6 this morning, and I saw it, so I will answer it in just a second. But let's. I want to talk about something that's been very interesting of late. And it's that on all of my private sessions, I've been doing a lot of private sessions, which is why I have laryngitis, really, because I want to make sure I can be there for whoever needs those sessions. So I'm on some days I'm going from 9 in the morning till 9 at night, and but when I'm doing these sessions, there seems to be a pattern of things that comes out, and it's something that I've known for a long time, and it's something that I wanted to talk to you guys about because I think you're going to relate to some of it, or some of you definitely will relate to this. There seems to be right now, with the major shift in consciousness that we're all pretty much seeing, there seems to be a influx of people, the best way I can say it, who are here don't feel like it just feels right. It's like they come in and it's like they know what the world is supposed to feel like, but they just don't know. It just doesn't feel that way. And so in feeling like it's not right, they feel very disconnected. They sometimes feel very alone. These same people are very much attracted to animals more than people. They tend to gravitate to their pets over going out in the public or dealing with other people. There's a reason for this. Animals love unconditionally. They don't have masks or expectations. They love unconditionally. And so they gravitate towards that unconditional love. They come here knowing what it's supposed to feel like, and it just doesn't, because they've come here on a subconscious level, remembering what the unconditional love of the other side feels like. And so they're here experiencing their separation in a very big way. And in experiencing that in a very big way, it feels lonely. It feels like you're out there in the wilderness, or you're in a country where they don't speak your language. You sometimes feel very separate and alone. In that regard, one of the things that I've been noticing and experiencing is, with this shift in consciousness, you always hear people talk about the idea of the veil being thinner. Well, I like to think of the veil like they think of it in Sufism. God's on one side of a veil, we're on the other side of the veil, and our life is a struggle against the veil, and the veil is our fears. And when I look at the concept of this, is God, source, consciousness, the place we all go home to, is right on the other side of the veil. And the people who are coming in now and having this experience of feeling so separate and alone, feeling so disconnected, feeling like they know what it should feel like, but it just doesn't, and finding some solace in their pets, those people really are entering this world with a thinner veil. They are already seriously connected to the other side. Now, I truly believe that the people who are coming in this way are carrying more of that vibration of the other side, specifically to raise the consciousness here, to change the vibration of this place, so that when we can vibrate this place north. Because as I said before, the last time Jeshua, Buddha, Krishna, all those guys came to us, this time we're going to them. We're raising our consciousness up to their level, or up to their next level anyway. And so it really comes down to needing people here who are already vibrating a little bit more that way. And so a lot of the people coming in right now, are here specifically on a giant, for lack of a better word, mission. They're here specifically to be here, so that feeling, that vibration that they know, can be here too. Because they're already vibrating higher, because that's why they don't feel like they fit in or connected. They're already in that space of knowing what it feels like, because they're already familiar with it, because they already carry some of it. And by carrying some of it here, we get to change the experience. When I was a kid, I very much felt separate and alone in a family of 7 brothers and sisters. I had 6 brothers and sisters, total of 7 kids. And I always felt very separate, very alone, very disconnected from everybody. And it just wasn't something I did. My dog, Nibbles, was Nibbles, yes. And yes, we had a little, that we took the Nestle song and switched it for him. And IBBLES, Nibbles was the very best doggy. And he was wonderful. He was great. And I had that very much that experience as well. And I think there's a lot of people right now who are going through this process. They just feel like they're separate, like they're alone. And it's not that they're separate and alone. It's that they're more in touch with what we're going to, rather than where they are. And one of the reasons I call this Live Loving Livestream is because I want us all to start live loving, because that is the vibration that these people coming in now want or need to experience. It is the feeling of Jeshua. I talk about when I first met him in the regression, how I could feel his presence. I could feel that love. Well, that love is that vibration, that feeling. And when he walked over and touched my heart, I was immersed in that feeling, which is, if you watch the Live Loving live stream and exit and intro, you'll see the heart with the hand on it. That represents Jeshua's hand on my heart. But one of the reasons I do the Live Loving live stream and spread the teachings is because I want us all to start having that experience where we're vibrating to that space. Now, what that'll do is the people who are here feeling so separate and alone and knowing the world should feel different will start to feel like they're at home again. And the ones who aren't having that experience that way are bringing their consciousness up and starting to feel what those other people feel, because they're meeting halfway and creating this vibration of love that will surround the world. It'll change the entire experience of all of us, because the veil is not only getting thinner, the veil is disappearing. We are becoming part of a more loving and conscious world, and the essence of God, the essence of Source, the essence of the consciousness of us all is good and caring and loving. And when people don't feel like they're feeling that, it's because they're immersed in the fears and the anxieties of the people who are kind of lost on that. And the reason I do the work that I do, the reason I put up over 200 videos in 4 months, is because I want to put the messages out there so people can step out of those fears and those anxieties and move into something more joyful and more loving. So, all of that said, woo, I'm going to take a quick sip of my hot tea and honey, and let's dive into some of the questions that we'll have, or just conversation. It doesn't have to be questions per se; it can just be conversation. I'm going to start, however, with Doug's question that he patiently was waiting on since 6 this morning. He asked a very simple question. He asked, why did Jeshua say, John, there's your mother, mother, there's your son, to John, rather than one of Jeshua's other 4 brothers? And all I can say is this about this topic is I have no idea the reason why, but I do know at the moment that was said, they were nowhere around. And I also know that Joseph himself was already dead at this point. So I don't know where the brothers were. I don't even know if all of them were even alive at that point. But I do know that all I can really go is by my memories. My memories are they were not there, and I was there alone with the women because everybody else was hiding off in the hills and the buildings, and not being there for fear of their own death. So that is your answer, Doug, and I hope that answers your question. I will only ever answer a question that I have memories of, as that is my truth. Or sometimes I'll say this is my intuition, but I have no intuition about this one, so I really can't answer it any more than that. Well, thank you, Claire. That's lovely. Mary Mayer, you said, seems like many people are checking out of this life. Do you have any intuition on why? When you say checking out, do you mean just disconnecting emotionally, or are you talking about actually dying? So I can go from there once you give me that answer. Yeah, Jenny Brown, you're absolutely right about animals always living in the present moment too. They are right here, right now, and they're like, "Ooh, look at you! I love you," and they just come right for you. For me, this whole time of transition has been spectacular. I can't in any way, shape, or form tell you how blessed I feel by you who are here watching on my videos and answering my videos, because I was really disheartened 15, 20 years ago when no one was hearing what I was having to say, and now it's very different. Everyone's much more awake now and much more open to learning something new or trying something different. And really, the thing that really is the most empowering to me is the fact that everyone seems to be very much about personal development and bringing themselves up, spiritual development. And so I think it's great. Now, Mary, you said that your answer was dying. I don't see people dying more than any other time. I just see the ones that are obviously on TV, the famous people who have passed away. But that happens all the time. I don't think there's any more dying this year than were dying before, but I do think a lot of people are checking out emotionally because it's been such a crazy past few years that they're like, I'm just done, and I'm not getting involved anymore. And if they really feel like it's that bad, they need to step into the idea of doing nothing is just stagnation. But doing something can be as simple as just being kind to somebody, smiling at somebody next door. My neighbor has a tree who fell down out there. When the snow clears, I'm going to go chop up that tree for him, because that's what neighbors do. That's what love does, is you help the people out around you. And so you want to step into that space of really looking at what you can do rather than checking out. Well, thank you, Tara. That is lovely. Lovely of you to say. It's heartwarming for me to actually do the videos as well. When I do the videos, it's very it's an interesting time, because I get all these questions, which I'm running low on questions, by the way. If you have more questions, put them in comments on the videos, and I'll move them over to the list. So I'm getting down there. But when I do videos, I come to my office here, I still in a little studio, and I open up the screen, and I make like 10 or 15 videos at a time. And it's great because I can just record them, and then I can sit here and edit them and put them in queue on YouTube, so they release daily. Right now, we have videos out in YouTube ready to go out until I believe it's February 4th. We're already on YouTube ready to go. Hi, Kimberly. How are you? And so when I look at these days where I sit down and record these videos, they are heartwarming for me, Tara, because of the fact that I'm reading these wonderful questions, and I'm going, wow. No one would have let me speak about this 10 years ago, 15 years ago. No one would have asked this question. So it always makes me feel really good to see that the world is changing in a positive way. Great question, Jenny Brown. Do you have any advice on how to love people who aren't loving back? I'm struggling with this, okay? Well, let's first start with the last line. I am, God's name, struggling with this. You're asking God to struggle with it. So let's break free of that. Your job is to love. Your job isn't to be loved. Your job is to love. Just love them, whatever. And if they're not willing to give it back, you don't need the validation of your love, because your love is pure. So just love them no matter what. And sometimes it sucks to be around people like that. Sometimes it very much sucks to be around that. And I think that the idea of people who aren't loving around us makes us go, okay, is this person someone that I need to deal with? Sometimes you have family members who just aren't loving, and you need to deal with them. But you don't have to deal with them as much as you might have to. I have a sister who we don't get along, and we get along better when we don't talk, right? And occasionally we'll talk at Christmas or something like that. But when we're ideologically very different, I don't, we just don't mesh. But I one time had a very gifted person saying, you don't choose your siblings, so you have to realize that even in that regard, you don't choose your siblings. But as far as your question, Jen, I would say start with the fact that I don't struggle with this. I love them no matter what. I love them without conditions. They don't need to love me back. Having them love you back is probably the condition that you've put on it. You have to love me for loving you. Just love them. Show them what the positive, and if they never take it, then that's them being stuck in their own fears. Hi, John. I have a question. What about life on other planets? What about it? I think that God is unlimited, and there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our philosophy. I've said on a different video that I had experiences of seeing things in the sky that I haven't ever been able to explain. But God is unlimited, and God and people on other planets, absolutely, probably millions of other planets with life on them, and I don't see why that in any way, shape, or form goes against God or spirituality, because God is unlimited. What are your thoughts on the law of one? I think the law of one is a really interesting experience. And I don't know if you remember if any of you, if you've heard my regression, in my regression, I mentioned the children of the law of one and the sons of Belial, which I still have no idea what that was about. But the law of one, the teachings, I had someone come on one of my sessions and give me the primer course on the law of one. And I think that it's divinely inspired. My only question really comes down to the channeling aspect. Is the raw character in the channel works someone's way of wrapping a personality around the information so they won't take responsibility for their own connection to source? Possible. But I think the information is good. It's just like the video I did the other day on the Course in Miracles. I put out that video on the Course in Miracles, and I lost 10 subscribers instantaneously, and it made me laugh, because the reason it made me laugh is because when you listen to the video, I say the information is good. My only question is, did Jesus sit on the other side of the desk and write it? And the people who quit and dropped off are the ones who've taken the Course in Miracles as a religion. It has to be right, and so you said something different, so you have to be wrong. So I'm unsubscribing. I think all organized religion, even New Age religions, are disconnecting us from source. And so I think we need to go back to finding our own source. Joshua said, when you seek a path will be laid before you, but until you turn the path inward, you won't find the door. And so you need to find the door, and the door is within yourself, not in some other outward teachers, including me. I'm just putting information out. If it feels right to you, take it. If it doesn't feel right to you, then it's not for you. You have to use your own discernment about anything you hear. You are quite welcome, Nip-Nap 99999999. Yep. So Peony and Roses, yes, about not loving someone back. You said, great question. That's my siblings. It literally comes down to, be love, and if they don't want to accept you for who you are, then they have a condition. You don't have to have a condition on them. Have I ever disliked someone the moment I met them visually and don't even know them? Yes. I have met people who the second I've met them, I'm like, And I think that could be past life. I think it could be just reading the energy. A lot of times people will come in with malicious intent. I've also had the moments where I knew someone had malicious intent and I changed their perspective. But it really comes down to the idea of when you have that person that you just don't like them, they're not in resonance with you. They're not in vibration with you. And if you can see an inroad to change their world to a more loving world, great. But if you can't, you don't. It's not your job. Your job is not to change the world. Your job is to make your part of the world loving. Having lost many dogs, husband, father, and mother, siblings in their own issues, therefore, I am alone, but not lonely. For I have my dog and bird, but the coldness from siblings is very hurtful. Yes, the coldness from siblings can be very hurtful if you allow it to be hurtful. I would say in that situation, you say, I'm sorry you feel this way. If you need anything, I'm here for you, no matter what. And let them go, because they can't miss you until you show the absence. And if the last exchange with you is something like, if you ever need me, I am there for you. There are no conditions on my love for you. You're my sister. You're my brother. If that's the last exchange for them, that's you giving love to them, right? And if they don't take it, that's not up to you. You have to release attachment to what they're going to do because they have free will as well. And a lot of times they will not leave that space of negativity and coldness and fear. But you have to be the warm spot for them to go, oh, look, I like that person, or that feeling from them. There is no hatred from them. You don't want them to look at you and think, I hate that person. Because all you have to do is just be loving, offer them unconditional love. And unconditional love, it's like the story I told about the lady and her mother. And she said, I'm going to end the relationship with my mother. And I said, before you do that, next time you get into a fight with her, just say, Mom, no matter what you do or say, I will always love you. And she ended up doing that, and the relationship completely changed because her mom wanted unconditional love. And by saying this, she put unconditional love on the table, which gave them the opportunity. Now, I will tell you this from experience. There are the times when you say this where people will read into it that you're trying to manipulate them or you're trying to do, and it doesn't matter what they read into it. It only matters about your intention. If your intention is loving and caring, they can take it or leave it. You have to release the attachment to it. Here's the other thing. If you release attachment to it, you're actually releasing them as well. So it actually is helpful for them, for you to back away. So, moving on. Hey, Radu. You are welcome, Marianne. Good morning from Texas, Donna. Good morning. Have you any experience with near-death experiences that happened without illness or trauma? Well, it depends on how you define near-death experiences. I have had the experience of going to the other side. I've had the experience of being in that white expanse, because you can't call it a room because there was no limits to it. And I have had the experience of a man standing there and telling me I'm not supposed to be there yet and pushing me back. And I got there intentionally. I was doing out-of-body work and ended up bypassing the physical reality and dropping into that reality. So yes, my experience is very much like what you hear in near-death experiences. And no, I did not have a trauma or an illness to get there. I was actually actively going there. And I think that near-death experiences, trauma and illness and all that, I often talk about the idea that people cross over and they see what they believe first, and then they get transitioned to that unconditional loving space, right? When I did that work, I was already past that religion aspect. I was already to the point where I knew it was an internal journey, and I knew that I was doing the work. And so by doing that, I ended up having the experiences that I had. I think that anybody at any given time can go there. And I think it's a matter of knowing you can, releasing any anchors that hold you back from going there, and just joyfully, lovingly going there. And the number one thing that I was told in the work, when I was in the middle of going out of body and doing that work, was I heard the words, relax and do it. Instead of making it a struggle. A lot of people get to that point where they're about to break free of their body, and they go, I have to push through, I have to struggle through, I have to get no. You have to let go. Because all that pushing and all that struggling and all that anxiety is holding on to physical form. And it literally is letting go of the body to go to the other side and experience. And you have to do that free with your own free will. Okay, I am going. Let it go. And you drop into that experience. It's very different. You or me. Well, thank you, NER GUP. I don't know the NER. What's the NER stand for? How do I sleepwalk, or better, how do I get out of this body? It's funny because even long before your videos, while walking, I was imagining my arms out of my actual arms. The question is, were you actually imagining it? I often have moments where I wake up in the morning and reach for my alarm clock to turn it off and realize I forgot to take my arm with me. So but your question starts with, how do I sleepwalk? You actually want to sleepwalk, or do you want to step out of your body and astral travel? Because that's something very different. Because your question is, how do I sleepwalk, or better, how do I get out of this body? There are videos on my channel, OBEs, how do I do them? Out of body experiences, how do I do them? So go check them out, is what I would say. Great. That's a great question. Is it really going out or just imagining? So I was in Annapolis, Maryland, in a camper, and I was doing astral travel, which is basically going out of body and traveling a distance. And I was in Annapolis, Maryland, and I went to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, which is 2 hours drive away. Found myself in my good friend's home and saw him asleep on his couch. And I looked at him and I was like, okay, I'm looking around the house. I'm trying to find things that I could say I saw to prove I was there. And I got this idea. I bet I can push my thought into his thoughts. I bet I can transmit a thought telepathically. So I was like, I got to do something that would be so bizarre that if he said it, I knew I'd made the connection. And so it sounds so funny. Sounds weird to even say, actually. I started saying, purple rhinoceros, purple rhinoceros, purple rhinoceros, purple rhinoceros, over and over and over and over again, purple rhinoceros, purple rhinoceros. Because I knew if he said purple rhinoceros, then I would have made the connection. So the next day I contacted him and I was like, hey, bud, how you doing? He says, so weird you're calling me today. So why? What happened? He says, last night I had this weird dream. You were in my house and you kept saying purple rhinoceros. That was the first thing he said to me on the phone. So are we out of body? Yes. We go out of body, we travel, we can go anywhere we want. And it's a matter of knowing we can, trusting we can. Now, I'm a scientific-minded person, so I wanted empirical evidence, which is why the purple rhinoceros thing came up. I told him things that were in his room, told him things that I saw. I said, you were asleep on your couch, not your bed, right? So I saw these things, and I told him these things, and he verified everything I said. So, Never Give Up. That's a great name for your group there. Never Give Up. Never Give Up. Never Give Up. Okay. Never Up. I still want to call you Near Gup. Like, that's funny. So I hope that answers your question, Fabian. I really like the feeling and the experience of going out of body. There you go. Yeah, Peony and Roses. I get that. Yeah, sometimes you just have to be that loving person and not expect anything back, because it's the expectation itself that's the condition. I just love, and if you don't love me back, okay. What's really interesting is the more I release the attachment to it, the less conditional love I get. The more I expect something from someone, they don't feel like I'm expecting something back from them. It's like when somebody says, I love you, and they're expecting you to say, I love you back. That expectation itself is a condition. You've got to stay into the space of, I love you. Doesn't matter what you think. Really. And if they love you back, wonderful. What a great ancillary benefit. But it only matters that you love them first, that you love them originally, because it's your experience is what is going to bring you the experience from them. It's what's going to change them. It's what's going to bring them the love out of them. Because you have to realize that for anybody to love means they have to make the conscious choice. They have to step into the place of saying, I am loving. I am loving this person. I am loving this experience. a while ago, I told the story about going to the restaurant and having a very different experience from the guy sitting at the table with me. And the difference was he hated the place and I loved the place. And the waitress came over and told us that she says, "I'm sorry, I'm having a bad night. It's going to reflect in your service." He was instantly mad and instantly had issues. I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Why don't you sit down? I'll get you some dinner. I'll take care of the rest of your tables. Just take a break." And she looked at me and then she smiled. She laughed. We flirted back and forth the whole dinner through. And my meal was beautiful and perfect. And the guy across from me, he had the crappiest meal he's ever had, right? Because by loving, I was getting the love in return just by loving her first. You have to be the love to get the love. Well, Jenny, you might have seen the video I did about it's a tough moment for me, but when they pushed the cross up and it dropped into that hole, and he looked at me and he gave me a look. He says, well, he didn't really say it. He gave me the he kind of communicated, "Well, that hurt." And the reason that was done was because he could see the trauma that I was going through, that his mother was going through, that his wife was going through, and he was defraying the moment with comedy. And that today still affects me because of the fact that in a moment where he was very rightfully should have been in his own experience, and he was worried about us. And so to me that was a really unconditional love. And so yes, I did see that. What is the etiquette if you have an out-of-body experience and the person you visit is in the bathroom or otherwise doing something personal? I've never had that experience. I've always, when I've traveled, I've never gone into a personal encounter. And I don't know whether that's because of the fact that I myself wouldn't go there in general, and so my consciousness wouldn't let me go there, or whether their consciousness wouldn't let us go there. But I've never had that experience. So I would say the etiquette would be to get the heck out of their room. It's their, step away, right? Back away from the naughty bits. Yesterday, I was healing through believing, and it actually worked. Then you laugh. Why did you laugh at that, Fabian? That's the question I have. Begets. I like the use of that's like a smile begets a smile, a frown begets a frown. I can't spell beget from the Bible. Very funny. It's the story I tell when I go to Egypt, and I was treated like a prince and beautifully and lovingly the whole time I was there. And the other man that I met halfway through the trip was being treated poorly everywhere he went because he was a jerk, right? What you put out, you get. And you often hear me talk about going to the grocery store here. Before I go in, I step into that place of unconditional love. And as I walk through the grocery store, I watch the people around me smile. And to me, that's one of the most fun things to do, is to watch the environment around me change as I walk through, because I'm actively being love. And so everybody can do that. Everyone should do that. Everyone should go out and play with that game. Go out there and just say, okay, I'm going to make 10 people smile in this room. You go do that. You've changed the world, because those 10 people are going to go make 10 more people smile. And it's going to be great. Dottie Snow, how do you discuss your past with someone who wants to hear it, but is also a firm believer that the Bible is the breathed word, I breathe ED, word of God, and is infallible? Well, most of them don't ever let me get into that conversation, and the reason they don't let me get into that conversation is because they have to be right. Most of them are here to judge me. Every so often, however, there will be an inroad. Someone will show up who is more loving and caring. I had a gentleman the other day, and I'd like to address this here, who came on the site, and he was a born-again Christian. And he said, his comment was something like, I did not watch this video, but I've watched several others, and I am very troubled by them because I'm a born-again Christian, and I believe you're a kind person, and talking about me, I believe you're a kind person, and you seem to be a nice person, but I truly believe you believe what you're saying. But I think that you've been led astray, and and he went down this whole route, right? And at one point he says, I'm sure that the people on your channel will attack me for what I'm saying. And my response to him was, if they attack you, they will be banned, because you came here lovingly. You came here with a loving intent. And so you will not be banned because you are loving. That's what this channel is about. This channel is about creating a community of love where we can express our various beliefs and share them. We don't have to agree on everything or anything. But if we can discuss and love, then we get to grow together. But if someone in this channel attacks someone like that, they will be banned instantly because they affect the community as a whole. That also said, if you go on my videos and you post 10 nonsense things in a row on one video, I'll be annoyed. If you do that on multiple videos, I'm going to ban you from the channel, which just happened the other day, or at least hide you from the channel so we can't see that person. Because I was getting these most nonsensical things and like 10 one-word comments on one video in a row, and just crazy stuff. Go back up here. But if they think the Bible is infallible and God is infallible, I usually say stuff like, the Bible's infallible. Okay, all right. So can you explain to me how God is love, and yet in the Old Testament it says that God sent 2 bears to kill 42 children because they made fun of a bald man? If that's love, please explain to me how that is. Or I'll say something like, okay, Adam and Eve had 2 sons, and those 2 sons took wives. Where did the wives come from? You can call them out on their craziness, but what happens is when you do that is they delete you and they go away. Very rare will they fight back because they can't, because the book is very flawed. Donna, I have done great efforts to not to not have things come to me via snail mail. I don't like snail mail. I just if you want to send me something, then message me on my contact form on my website and let me know what it is you want to send, and then I will let you know either way. But I try to have very little come to my mailbox. I think that's such an outdated way of doing things. Yeah. Fabian, I love this. When I was talking to God, I always was looking up, but now I know God is everywhere. I don't know if He's also my inner voice. He's everything, including your inner voice. Good point on Peony and Roses about the people having their own biases when they wrote the Bible. And then you also have to realize the Bible was written, thousands of years ago at a time that was very different from where we are now, in a very patriarchal society. I mean, even the Apostle Paul said that women should be quiet and silent and not speak. So there's crazy stuff in that Bible. Well, hello, Shelley Morgan. Welcome from Mississippi. Thanks, Peony and John. You are quite welcome, Dottie Snow. Hello from the UK. I love the UK. God is love. Amen. Maybe you have mentioned this in previous videos, but do you have a daily meditation spiritual practice? I wake up first thing in the morning. I go to a room that's dedicated in my house to meditation. I don't like to call it meditation. I call it sitting in love. I sit in love for 40 minutes. Basically, I sit down and I bring in that feeling of love, and I just sit in that love for 40 minutes. And right before I go to bed, I do the exact same thing. So I 40 minutes in the morning, 40 minutes in the evening. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, depending on the day, but every day. Because I find that when I do that, my world moves very much smoother. Everything happens so much easier when I'm in that space. Well, thank you, Kelsey May. That's a wonderful thing. I'm only telling my truth. My videos are my personal truth, and if anybody finds truth in it, then great. And if they don't find truth in it, then it's not for them. You know, the Bible says, "Let those who have eyes to see, and those who have ears to hear." That means talking about your personal truths. The other thing it says in the Bible, Jesus said, "My Father's house has many mansions or many rooms," and that means in God, there's many pathways to God. Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Baha'i, Wicca. There's many pathways and doors and modalities that bring you back to the same source. But what eventually happens is all of those when you get to that final source, it pairs down. For instance, when I first started meditating, I used meditation CDs. I used to listen to them. CDs, how outdated that is. I used to listen to the meditation recordings. Then I started using breath work and mantras. And now all I do is drop into the feeling. Well, the reason I do that is because all of the other ones took me to that feeling. So I just bypass the process and went right to the actual meditation. So that's why I do what I do. Yes, you are correct. Albina or Albina, God loves everyone. You are right. Yeah, I agree with you, Dottie. This is the best channel. Dun, dun, dun. Do I know anything about the Akashic records? I don't care who I used to be. I know it's irrelevant, but now I'm curious if we can access knowledge and abilities. The Akashic records is a Hindu belief. The words Akashic goes to that space, and it is the amassed knowledge of all, and people can tap into that Akashic record at any given time. In fact, a lot of you probably already do tap into it. You just don't realize it. How many of you listening right now have had the experience where you're talking to somebody and you're trying to figure out a way to say something, and a word popped in your head that you don't use, and you end up saying, well, I think this is the right word, and you use this word, and then you go back and look it up, and you find out it was the exact perfect word for what you're trying to say. That's tapping into a greater knowledge. That's tapping into the Akashic records. Now, as far as the Akashic records and past lives and all that stuff, that's all part of that knowledge. So people can tap into that stuff all the time. I think the Akashic records is probably a lot of what I tapped into in my regression. You know, I often say I don't fully understand reincarnation, and I'm not sure whether I'm one aspect or whether I'm the soul, person who remembers being John. But there might be an army. We all might have the ability to tap into it. I just, for some reason, have been able to tap into it. So I have no idea, nor am I vain enough to say that I know. Instead, I just take the information that I've gleaned and the information that I've gotten, and I share it because it's the teachings to me that are important more than anything else, more than how we got it. It's more about the teachings themselves. What was John of Old's beliefs before meeting Jesus? He was a Jewish man, a Jewish fisherman. And the interesting thing is, when I think about this, I don't have a real visceral memory of him practicing. However, when I think about this, I think of it as being a Jewish man, like an Easter Christmas Catholic is a Catholic. They're not really practicing the full thing, but they're just Catholic. Same thing with this. I think John was not as hugely devout as a lot of people would think he would be, but he considered himself a Jewish man and followed the practices, but without going into the very deep aspect of it. Well, thank you, Jacques. Oh, thank you. So, Fabian, I think you're really starting to overthink things. It doesn't really matter. We are the experience of God. God is the experience of us, but we do have our individuality. We do have our own individual place, because it was said, whatever you ask is given, if you believe. So we do have the creative experience. So there's got to be an individuality to it as well. Yeah. Once again, Fabian, you're really getting you're overthinking it. It's far more simple. It's far more simple. It's so simple we have a hard time even grasping it. Yeah. Dawn, I totally get that. I had that with my my son's mother. We had that experience. When I saw her, it was like seeing an old movie, like we'd known each other forever. Yeah, great question, Peony. Where can you have past life regression? I'm not tapped into that community, but I'll tell you how I found mine. I literally searched certified past life regressionists near me, and I found one that was in Washington, D.C. at the time, and that was 20 years ago. So I'm not even sure she even still practices, but I think that if you just do that simple Google search, you'll find someone who can do the work for you. Nina, does God have consciousness? God is consciousness. God is all consciousness. God is your consciousness. God is my consciousness. God is all. And we are all one together. And we as humans, we're used to thinking in separation. We're here to feel separate. But in reality, there is no concept of separation. We are all one, and though we are all one, we still have our own individuality as well. So it's very interesting. Fabian, like I just said, you go out and find yourself a certified past life regressionist, and I think you'll find out a lot. I think a lot of people, talking about Fabian, a lot of people really are trying to find their truth. And here's the thing that I would say. The connection to source is not in the head. It's in the body. It's in the feelings and the sensations. So when you hear something that feels right to you, explore that, right? But if you have to think it and wrap things around it, you're doing exactly what religion did. There's this simple essence that's true in all religions, but they've wrapped their own stories and laws and rules around it and made them convoluted. But there's universal truth in all of them. And it's a matter of as I said in one of the sessions, for this trip, we have to unpack. We have to unpack all the stuff so that we can move forward and find the connection to true source. Joshua never did talk about chakras, ever. He talked in love and love only. Well, thank you, Eliza. Lovely to see you as well. Aloha. Gosh, I'm sitting here looking out my window at what is now about, I guess there's probably about 15 inches of snow on the ground outside, and I'm thinking of you Hawaii, and I'm going, "Urgh." I'm jealous. I'm jealous. So, guys, we have 5 more minutes left before this thing ends. You have any last questions or any comments or things we want to discuss? 15-foot or greater surf. That's heavy duty. That's heavy duty. But you're probably not wearing a winter coat and high boots, are you? to watch those 15-foot waves. All right. Well, the voice is doing okay. I have a couple sessions tomorrow. I'm going to be recording another Spirit Cafe episode tomorrow with the lovely Tamara Zoner. Thank you, Shelley. That's an interesting question. Do you think Joshua is proud of humanity? I think Joshua is proud of the people who love. I think he thinks that I think he would think. I'm not going to say I know what he actually thinks, but I think he would think for the people who aren't loving, he wouldn't think anything bad of them at all. He would see them as someone to bring into the light. He wouldn't. It's not about proud as much it is about being loving. And so it's an odd question for me to answer. Well, thank you, Jenny. It was a good questions today. You were correct. A lot of very good questions today. Where do you live, Peony and Roses? Because I spent over a decade traveling Renaissance festivals and did not see snow for 10 years and did not miss it. In fact, I was wearing shorts the entire time. Well, thank you all so much. It's been lovely to talk to you guys today. I'm going to go nurse my throat and be prepared for my private sessions and my recording of Spirit Cafe tomorrow. Don't forget, guys, I also want to say February 13th, just a couple weeks away, there's not going to be a live stream here, but there is going to be one over on Spirit Cafe because it's going to be our 1-year anniversary. So please join us over there for Tamara and I talking about our 1 year and we're going to talk about all the guests we've had and all the big shifts and changes we both have had over the years. And we'll take all your questions and dive into a real good conversation. So join us February 13th on the Spirit Cafe channel. If you haven't signed up yet, please go sign up. There's soon to be 52 videos on there for you to enjoy. And we've had some great guests. We've had some great conversations. And basically what that channel is spirituality without the guilt or dogma of religion. So you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you next week. See ya. Bye. Thank you for joining us for the Live Loving live stream. Don't forget to spread the love by liking, subscribing, and sharing.